Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining me. I am preserving some onions, garlic, lemons, and mangoes, and this will take me over the course of 2 days to process everything, but not that much time, just waiting in between. First up, I sliced up the lemon and limes. I put them on this parchment lined baking sheet and just popped them in my freezer so that they could freeze nice and flat. I chopped up the onions and the mangoes. I put some in different shapes for what I need them for. And I was watching a video on YouTube to help pass the time. So some time passed, and maybe 30 minutes between me chopping up the stuff and cleaning up. And I took these out of the freezer. I still put them in flat so that they could finish freezing properly without freezing together. It worked out really great. And I put these in the freezer again, and I was keeping these. I'll show you what I do with them then. But I really loved the Ziploc bag. These are really awesome reusable Ziploc bags as well. So next up, I took the same baking sheet and I put the chopped onions. I put them kind of in cubes because I want to use them for soups and stir fries and different times. So I just want to grab some onions out of the freezer without having to chop them, and just also put them on the baking sheet and pop them in the freezer the same way. I did end up leaving these in overnight in the process. This is about 11 o'clock at night at the point that I'm doing this. Next up, I took this bowl full of garlic. There was so much garlic, and it was just kind of beginning to collect in my container, and I knew it was time for me to do something with it. I kept getting it with my produce box, and I was not using it up fast enough this way. And I prefer having minced garlic because, garlic is really smelly, and to chop up a bunch every time you cook, or a few cloves even, just it smells. It has this, and then it's on my fingers, and I smell it for. I don't think I can ever use enough soap to get rid of it. So at first I chopped up some of the ones that had, or cleaned up some of the ones that were had some mushy part or a brown part on them. That took me a little longer, and then I moved over to smacking the garlic with a knife, which is really important. Use your hand, and that whacking thing that you do. It goes so much faster. And I did that, and then the process went way faster. And yeah, I just got those prepared to put them into my Krupp spice grinder, which you will see here in a moment. I use this grinder because it has a nice flat blade, and it's the only flat blade blender grinder thingy I have. It worked out really well. I loved the texture of it. It turned it into this very minced texture, which was perfect. Exactly what I was looking for, and it was so fast and so easy. Link the spice grinder in the description box below. So I really loved the texture of it and how it turned out. It was amazing. Next up, I'm grabbing my food scale so that I can measure out to make sure I get my water, citric acid, and my water and citric acid ratios right so that I can acidify it properly. I will have a link of a research paper from the University of California in the description box as well, with all the ratios on how to do that. It's a really awesome paper. Make sure you do this properly if you want to do something like this, because you do not want to be growing any sort of unfriendly critters in your kitchen. I used Siri at this point, and I was just getting her to convert the stuff for me because I'm lazy like that. Or is it innovative or trying to speed up the process? I'm not sure. We can leave that open for interpretation. So I rewatched the video just to make sure that I was doing it right. I went and checked the paper as well, and I was like, okay, everything's on point. I think I understand what I'm supposed to be doing. I reread it a few times. I watched the video a few times at this point just to make sure that I had everything properly on point. So I got the citric acid, and I tried to show you in film, but it didn't work out well. I am going to be putting the citric acid in here with the water into the white bowl and just mixing that really well. Make sure that's all dissolved in there. I have to step over to get my water out of my water dispenser on my counter. So that's why the back and forth to get each cup. And yeah, taking me a moment here. I'm at a loss for words. I'm just going to take that, stir it up, make sure it's dissolved, and pour it into my garlic, which at this point my house smelled very disturbing. It smelled like so much garlic. I was so very unimpressed by it. The stench was real. It smelled like garlic for like 3 days, I believe, or has it been 2 days since I did this? I don't know. It smelled like garlic for a while, and it was disturbing on so many levels. There's probably like something you can spray or do. I covered it with this napkin and put it on my counter. So I'm pretty sure there is something, what I was saying, that you can do to spray maybe in your house or do something to get rid of the smell, because the smell was just not good. Not something I prefer. So at this point, I'm at my Excalibur. I'm putting on my flowers onto the sheets. I have a really cool project I want to use these flowers for, but it's gonna have to wait until after this whole stay-at-home order quarantine stuff happening in my little corner of the world here, or maybe that's happening in a lot of people's corners of the world. Not everyone, but a lot. Next up, I am putting these onions onto this tray, and I just keep parchment on these trays because that way I don't have to clean them all the time. Otherwise, I feel like I have to scrub them every time, because I don't know, they've got some food on them. So I just do the parchment paper. It's really easy. There's, I believe, a fruit wax paper or something that you can get for these things, which I'm definitely going to check into again after this quarantine. These were some of my list of things to do, but they definitely got interrupted as the world had a bit of different plans for my life, apparently. Unfortunate circumstances. So I just keep doing this tray after tray, popping those into my Excalibur, and next up I'm gonna grab my mangoes and layer this as well. I really like drying mangoes here and there. I didn't dry a lot of them, but mangoes they taste like candy, and my idea of candy, and I really like that. So got everything in there. I checked my trays, make sure everything was like how I wanted it to, because they're going to be like this overnight. And everything was on point, and I was like really pleased, and I was like, okay, we can put this all to bed. And I'm just going to pop the cover on there, and we are good to go, and we're going to go sleep, and it's the following day. So I took the onions from the freezer and I put them in another reusable Ziploc bag. I really love these reusable Ziploc bags. I was super impressed with the quality. They're amazing on so many levels. They're pricey in my opinion, but totally worth the money as well. And I took some of the lemon and lime slices and made myself this really fun drink. I put the lime and they're mostly lime. There was like one lemon in there, some ice and some berries. It was super yummy. I love starting my morning that way. So tasty. I was really excited about that, and I enjoyed that while I went and watered all my little plants and checked on my stuff in the Excalibur. I'm sprouting these seeds and stuff on top as well. I'm sprouting like seeds, and then I'm also growing some seeds for things. So it's a cool little thing I got going on there. I pulled out my dried flowers. I put those into this little container. I'm going to put that into my cabinet until a later date where I'm going to use them for a really awesome project that will be here on YouTube. And I ate some of my mangoes, of course, and I put the others in the Ziploc bag as well. Reusable ones, by the way. Use reusable ones. And next up, I threw in some thyme and rosemary into the Excalibur because the onions still were not done at this point. And I decided to dry these as well and do the same thing. The spice grinder, really easy to do. I won't show that on this clip. And put those in there. I will definitely show how I do those spices at a later date. I really love drying spices and making my own. It's so much fun. The onions were finally done, so this was like late afternoon at this point. I got this box of jars from Amazon. I will also link those down below. They work really amazing for spices. And I got these cute little funnels. I don't know if they were food funnels or cosmetic funnels, but they work really good for spices. I ground the onion up and I love the texture. I wanted a coarser texture in the process, so I was really happy with the result. I love the Krupp spice grinder. It works really well. not with one hand as it keep moving, but if you have two hands, it's better. But I was trying to film too, and this was the finished product, which I was super pleased with. Next up, I have the garlic, and this is evening now. It's like late, like maybe like 8 o'clock in the evening. I'm gonna take the garlic and put it in the strainer and just strain off the water. And I then place the garlic, after the water was properly strained off, into these 2 little jars. And I'm gonna pour oil over top of them, and the oil is actually gonna just keep everything preserved and fresh. And I ended up putting mine in the freezer. That's where I preferred for them to be. And fridge, I put them in the fridge, in the fridge, and I really like it there. I used some of it like 3 days later, and it was amazing. It turned out really well. And yeah, I just stirred these, made sure it got well coated. After I videoed this, I shook them even more just to make sure there was oil over everything, and I was super pleased with the result. So thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your view, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you.